Well, hello there. This is Paul Carruthers, and this is Off Track. And I don't do this alone. I could never do it alone because I don't have the stories that Sean Bice somehow comes up with for the starts of these shows. I might be able to do the show after the start without him, but at least in the beginning, I 100% rely on Sean Bice. Sean, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Glad to be on with you. And spring is sprung here in Ohio or the Midwest or however you want to put it. I'm sure it's sprung in the area where our guest that we're going to have on, Kris Turner, is down in Tennessee. So life is good. Hey, I want to ask you a question, Paul. I know for a fact that you like to swing the sticks, and I've never gone and played on a golf course.
What are you talking about? I only have one stick.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, you must have a bag of them. Well, let's not talk about bags either, I guess. But I know from playing Topgolf with you that you do enjoy a little bit of golf. So the one thing I don't know about you, though, is do you play miniature golf? Have you ever played it?
I have, yes. I mean, I remember as a kid, there was a course sort of close by the house. And I mean, kid like teenager, and it'd be a good place to take the girls on a Friday night or something and have a bit of a laugh and knock the ball around. But I honestly, I haven't done it in a long time. It's funny because I don't know why, but I always notice the courses when I'm in other places and driving around and stuff. And you don't see many of them back here anymore, I think, because the land's so valuable. But actually, when I go back east, where were we last? I don't know if it was Texas or Atlanta. I saw this. There was kind of an odd miniature golf course built onto the side of a hill that I saw every day when I was driving from the hotel. So, yeah, why? What's up with miniature golf? Where are we going?
Well, I have a reason for this. So, Kris Turner, who we're going to have on in a moment, is from Chattanooga, and when we get him on, we'll find out if he gets back and forth to work on the Chattanooga Choo Choo. But I do know that Chattanooga is the home of the very first miniature golf course at Tom Thumb Golf, which is apparently on Lookout Mountain, which Kris can tell us about Lookout Mountain. It's supposedly a pretty impressive place in Chattanooga. But there's some fascinating things about Chattanooga. Paul, have you ever had a moon pie?
No.
Moon pies, oh, they're fantastic. We used to call them, where I grew up, we called them scooter pies, but moon pies were actually invented in Chattanooga at the Chattanooga Bakery. They're it's like two cookies with marshmallow in between and then covered in chocolate. I'm sure you've had something like that.
Yeah, I have. I just hadn't referred to it as
as a moon pie or a scooter pie? Well, as long as you don't call it a cow pie, I think you're okay.
Yeah, I don't know what they would call it out here.
But those are a couple things about Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is where Kris is from. So let's bring Kris in. Do you want to do a little intro on him, Paul, or do you want to just bring him in and start talking to him?
No, I mean, let's give it a little bit of an intro. I mean, Kris came back and he's been racing for a while, but it sounds like he took some time off. He came back. He raced with us last year in Twins Cup and actually finished third in the championship. He had a late start to the season, if I recall correctly, but he sure finished strong. I mean, he had 2 seconds and a win in the last 3 races, including his victory in New Jersey. But, and this is a big but, his season this year, I mean, the Twins class has only raced it with the 2 races at Road Atlanta, but he had 2 horrible races, all kinds of problems. And he finds himself 50 points behind as we go to VIR this next weekend. So he's got some work to do. But, the beauty of that class is that, like a lot of our other classes, a guy like Kris wins a couple of races and some of his competitors can easily finish, on a bad day, 5th, 6th, or 7th, because there's enough strong people in the class that he could make up those points. So I'm curious to talk to him about, his season last year and obviously the rough start to this year and what he's got going into VIR. But let's bring him in and have a chat with him. Good afternoon, Kris. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing
We're
great.
Hanging.
Yeah. Hey, Kris, so you're 50 points behind, but you're actually further ahead than you were last year at this time, aren't you? Technically?
Yeah, for sure. If I look at it like last year, I've done the math, and I started at Laguna, and at Laguna and at Utah the next round I had a DNF both rounds. But and then we didn't even go to Sonoma. So, but I've looked at the math. I mean, all winter, the off season's so long that you have time to think about this kind of thing. But mathematically, if I had won Laguna and won Utah and then went to Sonoma and won, which is I know that's kind of stiff to say at a lot of ifs, I still would have mathematically been in the championship. So to look at it from a positive point of view where I'm at now, yeah, I mean, I still feel good about it. I tell you what, Michael Barnes was definitely my biggest friend at Atlanta, because as of last time I talked to him, he's not doing the whole series. So everyone keeps saying, yeah, you're 50 points down. I'm I'm 36 points down off of Parrish and Murray, and that's who I'm really worried about right now. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was checking on the entry list, and I actually mistakenly had made a comment about Michael being at VIR. He may still be there. You might know better than us, Kris, but we didn't see him on the entry list yet. So do you know what the situation is with him?
I really don't know. I mean, last time I talked to him, he was going to go to VIR and didn't know about any of the races after that. But
yeah, that's what he
honestly,
heard. He said to us.
I didn't even. I mean, I looked at the entry list, and all I did was count how many riders were on there and was like blown away. But beyond that, I didn't really look at who was on it.
Yeah, 41 riders. Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah, that's incredible. It's gonna make qualifying interesting, because that's kind of a one-line track anyway. So I mean,
That's
like
right.
Road Atlanta was qualifying got tough towards the end, trying to find a clean lap. But VIR is probably gonna be a lot worse than that.
That's crazy. There's going to be that much. Hey, so before we get too far into this, I want to ask you, have you ever played golf at Tom Thumb Golf on Lookout Mountain?
No, I haven't. And it's actually funny because I got a buddy that's kind of our pastime. We haven't done it in a while, but back in the day, we used to go and play putt-putt or mini golf, whatever. I mean, like every weekend almost. So it gets pretty competitive, and I've played it a lot. But hey, Sean, I'm actually kind of disappointed in you. You didn't even mention that the tow truck was invented in Chattanooga too.
Oh, believe me, I got that one too. I was going to actually bring it up. I figured, yeah, you're absolutely right. The first tow trucks were created in Chattanooga. Yeah. There's actually a International Towing and Recovery Hall of Fame there. Have you ever been to that?
No, I've been saying for years I want to go to it, but for some reason nobody is real interested in looking at the history of the tow truck.
Hey, if the tow truck was invented there, doesn't that just mean they had a bunch of shitty cars?
Yeah.
That's a possibility, actually. If you look around, yeah, it's a possibility. For sure.
That's right.
You know what?
That's pretty good.
I was gonna say, like, if you take mini golf and moon pies and compare that to tow trucks, which one had the biggest international impact, and you come up with moon pies and mini golf, I'm kind of proud of that.
Have you ever had you've probably had a moon pie, Kris, I'm sure, haven't you?
Yes. Oh man, back whenever I was young and my metabolism was good, I would eat a moon pie almost every day. I love them.
Did you know that they were invented? Did you know that they were invented in Chattanooga?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, what's funny is the whole time we were in Europe doing the Rookies Cup,
yeah,
everybody knew Chattanooga because of the Chattanooga Choo Choo song.
Right.
Nobody knew what Chattanooga was. Everybody knew the song, and like I'd tell them where I was from, and they'd be like, and they would start singing the song. So nobody knows. I mean, like about the moon pie and the tow truck and all that. There's a lot of history here.
I always used to sing the song. I'd sing the song. I'd go, "Pardon me, boys, is that the cat that chewed your new shoes?" So I always sang it.
Where am I?
What were you going to say? I interrupted
you. Crystals?
Yes.
Yeah.
The burger place.
It's from Chattanooga.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It depends on who you ask. It's kind of a touchy subject for people, but Coca-Cola was first bottled in Chattanooga.
Yes, absolutely. That's true. It was a private bottler that was their first bottler. It was the world's first franchise Coca-Cola bottling plant.
Yeah.
So Kris, let's ask Paul this question, and I don't know if you probably know this one, but Paul, so Chattanooga is called Gig City. Do you know why?
Gig City?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it something to do with music or what?
Yeah, you would think so. Do you know that, Kris? Why it's called Gig City?
Yeah,
okay, tell us the story on that.
You can thank EPB for that. They were the first, I think, worldwide, the first, I guess, provider to offer a full gig of internet.
That's right.
And that
Yeah.
actually that brought in a lot of businesses too.
Yeah, it's supposedly the most connected city in the country, and it was such a big deal that they actually provided it. And sure enough, Kris is sitting in a Walmart parking lot, getting Wi-Fi and or whatever you're using your your phone signal anyway. So that's pretty good. So hey, you talked about. Yeah, and eating a moon pie. I'm sure you can buy them at Walmart, so there's no problem there. Just at least you haven't got.
At least at Walmart, you won't have to worry about getting towed.
Yeah, that's all you have to do after you get done with this. Go into Walmart, grab some moon pies, and call a tow truck and have them tow your car home. So
yeah.
So you mentioned one thing, Kris, when you were saying about the people in Rookies Cup. So that's one of those, talk about fun facts about Chattanooga. That's a fun fact for me about Kris Turner, is the fact that, and we did a story on this a while ago when we talked to you, the fact that you were part of that Red Bull Rookies Cup, and talk about that experience and who else from the U.S. was in that when you were there.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely I was only I think 14 at the time, so I didn't really take in the experience as much as I would now. But just traveling around in Europe and seeing all the different stuff and the culture there, it was really eye opening. And definitely, there's actually a funny story about my dad. I'm obviously being from Tennessee, he's got to wear overalls everywhere we go, and I think we were in Jerez, and he was standing there and in his overalls watching at the track, and this Spanish guy came up to him and just yelled "howdy" real loud at him, and my dad looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" So I don't know. It was definitely a culture shock for him more than me. But everyone, I'm blonde hair and blue eyed. Everyone thought that I was either from England or northern Spain. They talked to me, but if he tried to ask for directions or anything, they didn't want to talk to him. But it was a stacked field. It really was. It was me and Cameron Bobier and JD Beach were the Americans over there, and we were racing with Louis Salam and Johan Zarco and who else? Leandro Mercado. No.
That's so cool.
Not Leandro Mercado. I raced him in AMA. Man, I can't remember his name. Lorenzo Savadori. Raced, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he raced World Superbike last year. And Reitenberger, that's racing World Superbike now.
Oh, the German guy. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it was definitely a stacked field.
I didn't realize that, because a couple of years ago when Cameron went over and raced that IDM class or series, the German Superbike, Marcus Reiterberger was in that, raced against him. I'm sure they must have talked about when they were together in Red Bull Rookies at that time too. But the distinction here is there was our U.S. Rookies Cup, but there was MotoGP Rookies, which is what you did. You were over in Europe and against everybody in the world. Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool to look back now, because it was the very first year that they did that too.
It's awesome.
So I don't know. It was kind of a bad season for me there, but what came of it, I can look back on it and see what I did there myself, and not just that, but all the riders over the years that have come through that program to go on to have really successful careers. It's I don't know. I look at it as, it's one of those really cool things that not many people can say that they did.
I mean, it's amazing. One of 3 Americans, and then you were in that group of guys, like you're saying, Zarco and everybody else. That's pretty incredible. When we went to Laguna Seca last year, were you? I can't remember. Were you at Laguna Seca? Last year?
Yeah, I did. Laguna.
Okay, that's right. So that's right. That's where you started, right? That's where the season started for you, right?
Yeah. That was. Yeah, that's a story.
So when you were there, did you have a chance was there anybody in the World Superbike paddock that you might have remembered or worked with when you were at Red Bull Rookies? Did you see any of the guys at all?
Yeah, I mean, Salvadori was there.
Right.
Which, I mean, I knew Chaz Davies from back when I was racing 600. I used to race with him a lot. I mean, there was a few guys there, but honestly, I didn't really take the time to go, because we were kind of separated from them where we were parked. I never really took the time to go over there and to talk to anybody. It's actually funny, though. Whenever I was walking the track, I've never been there before, so I walked the track and was walking around, and I was talking to this random guy, and he kept asking me, about the track and all this. And I was like, man, I've never been here before. And I had no idea who it was. And then after we went home, I was watching the races on TV, and it was Eugene Laverty. I was walked the whole track with Eugene Laverty and had no idea that I was walking with him.
You thought he was one of the Mario brothers, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, with the mustache and everything. It never crossed my mind that this dude races motorcycles. You know, he looks like the guy that washes all the stuff in that little sink behind the garages.
That's pretty good.
That's funny. So what wasn't so funny was Road Atlanta. Should we revisit that?
You got to tell us about that, Chris.
If you
that
want
was
to,
nuts. Yes, we want to hear the whole story. That was insane.
Oh man. So let's just break down the whole weekend, because the whole weekend was horrible. I went out for first practice, and I'm pretty sure it was wet in first practice. I can't even remember now. But first practice Friday morning, I went out and dropped a valve, and so there was a big miscommunication after that on the front brake master cylinder, and I'm not going to get into that, but pretty much the whole grid went around and was bumming OEM master cylinders off other teams and stuff. So we spent the whole time from practice to qualifying trying to fix the motor. So we didn't have time to do that. So I went out in qualifying, which it was wet for first qualifying. So I told my dad, I was like, it's going to be dry in the morning, so these laps don't really matter anyway. So I got a whole session in and felt pretty good, put it third. And then they took my qualifying times away with me, like me and like 6 other people, I think, because we still had the aftermarket master cylinder. So I was like, you know what, no big deal. Just let it ride, go in tomorrow morning and, try to make a better weekend out of this. So final qualifying, got out there like first thing, started putting some good laps in. And I haven't been to Atlanta in like 7 years, but I've rode there so much, it all just came back to me. So I put it on, I had it on pole the whole session, and I didn't know this. We don't have a pit board or anything. I'm trying to like look at my dad's fingers. So he's hanging over the pit wall, giving me different finger signs, what place I'm in and all this. I thought I was in pole. I came in like halfway through the session and knew I was on pole. And I didn't know, the end of the session, if somebody was putting in a faster lap or, something like that. So I came over and I was trying really hard to get a clean lap there at the end. And I knew I had I had enough time for one lap left. And I come by and my dad's holding up, like his fingers are really close together, like, like a little gap, So I didn't know if somebody was in front of me and I was like barely off pole or whatever. So I was like, crap, I need to really put in a good lap here and try to put it back in first. And went off into the first turn. The bike, the shift on these things, like you have to push the lever really far to get it to go into gear and like downshift and all that. So I think I just didn't get it all the way into gear and went into turn 1 and rolled in, and it popped back out of gear, like in between gears. So I got offline, tried to grab the front brake offline and just tuck the front end. And it was a rough crash, but Jonathan Farmer at VO2 Leathers hooked me up this year, and I've got to say that I was really impressed with how the leathers hold up. I mean, I know it's kind of a shameless plug right now, but I really was impressed at how good the leathers held up, and the Arai helmets, obviously. So I actually I got up, and it took me a second to get up. I'm not 18 anymore, so it did take me a second to get up, but I got up and walked off perfectly fine. So that kind of started the rest of the weekend for us. The bodywork was pretty much destroyed. The lower was actually broke completely in half. The upper was all, I mean, y'all saw it on the TV. It was bad. And we have like a handmade ram air system that my dad made, and it works really good, but it doubles as a fairing stay. And we tried to, at first we ran out of fiberglass repair kit, we ran out of fiberglass to fix everything. So we think we just didn't have enough fiberglass where the upper goes into the ram air to hold it. And that's why it was falling down in the first race. So I got meatballed, DNF'd that one, and we actually took the time to try to fix it correctly after that. Went out and practiced Sunday morning. Everything was perfectly fine. Didn't do anything wrong the whole practice, which I only did, like maybe half the session because it was wet again Sunday morning. But everything was good, And then we go out to the race, do the warm-up lap. Everything's good. Do the sight lap. Everything's good. And as soon as I took off, I got a really good start in race 2 and led. Went through turn 5, went over the curbing, and when I dropped off the curbing, I saw the upper fall down, and I was like, oh no. And as soon as I got on the back straightaway, it just like about halfway down the back straightaway, it just like a parachute went out and people just started blowing by me. So it actually got worse in the second race than it was the first race. But like I said, it's just the first round. I kind of I've been kind of joking about it because like Super Sport and Superbike, they do 2 races every weekend, and I picked a hell of a weekend to have a bad weekend because I've got half the amount of races to make up the points as I would if I was in Super Sport.
Right.
Yeah, it's doubly bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question for you, and I don't know if it's true or not. But someone told me, a reliable source, that a brake caliper was actually handed over the fence to you from a spectator after you crashed at Road Atlanta.
No.
Oh.
No.
It would have been a pretty cool story, though.
It'd be cool for y'all. It sucked for me, but that bike was in bad enough shape.
Well, what Paul, are you saying that the master cylinder came off the bike and somebody handed it back to him, or
no? Whoever told me made it sound like the spectator was kind of helping him out with parts and just gave him a new one.
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, off of his bike.
So not true, Chris?
No, I did. Okay. I was going through the gravel trap whenever they were loading the bike up and was trying to find parts that were missing. But no, the calipers were in good shape.
Okay. Yeah. It was crazy. That first race, you were holding on to the fairing, and then we saw you in the second race, and we thought you crashed because it was all out of kilter, and like you said, worse than the first one. So
yeah,
that's obviously why they meatballed you.
In the first race, I was actually mad when they meatballed me because I was holding the fairing up, and I thought, nah, it's fine. I'll just hold it up on the straightaway, no big deal. But it was actually when I came in. I'm glad that they did it because the way that the upper was falling down, it was blocking all the air going to the motor, so the bike was overheating bad. So, which I couldn't see the cluster anymore because it was so far down, so I had no idea it was overheating. But yeah, it got up to like 250 degrees. So, yeah, I guess hindsight is probably a good thing that they meatballed me.
Well, you also, I came over and looked at the bike, and you also kind of caved in the fuel tank a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I think that actually helped me a little bit because, trying to tuck in,
So what's the prognosis for VIR? What's the situation with the custom made fairing mount? Have you got that troubleshooted shot at this point, or how do you say it?
Yeah. We've got, we're basically going to do the same design, but a better way to secure it. We went, we started using it at Pittsburgh last year and I did 5 races with it last year and had no problems with it at all. It's you can grab the upper and it doesn't move. It's super sturdy. It was just whenever we tried to fix it the second time, I think the fiberglass just didn't really have enough time to set all the way. And when I came off that curb at Atlanta, I guess it jarred it enough that it just kind of fell out. So it's not a big deal, but for VIR though, I got home from Atlanta and was sitting there just staring at my bike, but going I have no idea how we're going to have 1, the money, and 2, the time to get everything fixed, Right. Bodywork, you can't just call up and get bodywork shipped to you right then, they have to have it made and everything. So, I put a post on Facebook and just kind of explained what happened at Atlanta and, what was really going on. And, Riders Law hit me up, an hour later and was like, what all do you need? And, so they've jumped on board, and because of them, I'm going to make VIR.
That's awesome.
So
that's great.
Super appreciative for them.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing because Riders Law is more of a West Coast group of lawyers for motorcycling, right? You're obviously more East Coast, so that's cool that you were able to make that connection. It's kind of obviously the silver lining to that weekend is if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't obviously gotten the support. Maybe I'm sure you would have needed it one way or the other. So it's good that you have it.
Yeah, for sure. It helps out a lot. I actually met them last year when we went to Vegas for the awards ceremony. They invited me to a little pre-party they had before the awards ceremony and put us in a limo and took us and everything. And it was me and Jason Madama and Aussie Dave. We're the only 3 racers there, so it was pretty cool. I got to actually meet Cy and talk to him and Fabian, and there's some really good people there. They really are.
From the look of our banquet, it looks like Madama must have had the most drinks in the limo.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah.
Oh, we've busted on Jason a few times about that. He's not going to be able to live that down. The cool thing is, you guys, as I recall, it was Chris Parrish, you and Jason. You guys were all sitting at a table together. It's kind of like the Twins Cup dudes all in a group, right?
Oh man. Well, Parrish sat at the table next to us. And
okay.
It's actually a funny story because Cy, I guess he knows a lot of people there, obviously. And he went and stood in the beer line and bought like 16 beers for a bunch of different people and put them in a table. And then everybody ended up sitting at a different table. So I'm like sitting there and there's 16 beer bottles on the table in front of me. And I'm not, I don't think nothing about it. I'm sitting there with one other guy and I'm sitting there. And then like I saw the camera pan and I saw me just sitting there by myself with 16 beer bottles on the table. And I was like, I should probably move tables. This doesn't look real good.
And there goes the factory ride.
Right. Or it helped him, I guess, by the looks of things. So you're saying VIR? Do you know? Is it kind of a one race type thing, or are they gonna? Do you know if it'll go beyond that with Riders Left?
No, they kind of came on board as a title sponsor for the rest of the year. So
nice.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna be a big help. Granted that I actually have a good year and put out some results. They're definitely gonna be a big help for me for sure.
What about VIR? Have you been to that track before? Race there?
Oh man, you know what's funny? Before the season started, I told my dad and I told my wife both that I was really confident going into Atlanta. I've always loved that track. I've always done really good there. And I told them, I was like, if I can just put it on the podium at VIR, I'll be happy. I hate that track. I've never been good there. I've never been that great there, and I don't know. It just doesn't flow right to me. I don't know. I don't know if it's my riding style or I've only been there a couple of times. Maybe I'll figure something out this time. But now I'm sitting there going like, I've got to win this time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So what about VIR? You like that track?
Not really.
Okay. Oh, well, you were talking about Road Atlanta though, weren't you?
Well, no, I was talking about VIR.
I like it.
Oh, yeah, I missed it.
Atlanta, but I hate VIR.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I always I don't know why I get those mixed up in my head all the time.
Are you eating a moon pie,
so.
Sean, or what?
Yeah. Oh, wait. You just reminded me of something. So, Chris, you said that you don't have a pit board. So you were saying your dad puts two fingers up or one finger. Could you also pick him out of the group by the fact that he's wearing bib overalls on the pit wall, or does he not wear those?
No, I told him no overalls at the track unless it was going to be in uniform.
Okay. So what's the deal with the pit board? Sounds like that's something you ought to get. Maybe Riders Law can hook you up, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if them or if I got like a pit board sponsorship, that'd be pretty cool. I don't know. We've never had one. I don't
really.
I've always thought it'd be nice,
crazy.
But I usually just kind of go out there, turn some laps, and I come in. I'm like, oh, I was only 10th. That sucks, But
it's kind of interesting. You're judging your entire qualifying on how far apart your dad's fingers are.
Yeah.
There might be a better way.
Yeah. Well, I always know when I suck because when I'm going real slow, because he puts up one finger, but it's not the index finger.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So, tell us, Chris, about what you do, your day job, what you do other than racing. You obviously don't have the big factory contract and train all the time. You have to do other things and you have to make a living. You got a family, you got kids and a kid and stuff like that. So tell us about that.
It's rough, man. I have, I've actually, right now I'm working as a mechanic at my dad's shop. He opened up a shop when I was 12. So that's like, he put me to work when I was 12. So that's pretty much all I've ever done away from racing for any longevity. And really, I mean, yeah, it is hard for sure because I lost a lot of weight over the winter, but it wasn't really from training. It was more from a diet, because, you eat 3 times a day. So anyways, that's something that really doesn't take a whole lot of time out of your day to go do, but that's just a mental choice to go and change what you're eating every time. But I don't really have a lot of time to train right now. And some of it is a little bit of laziness. I could probably get up a little earlier and go run or do something, but working all day and coming home and playing. I got a 4-year-old that I have to play with every day. He's my best friend. So,
Right.
and then I've got a little girl that'll be 3 months next week, I think, or this week. No, next week. Yeah, next week will be 3 months. So
Wow.
I try to spend some time with her, and obviously I got to spend some time with my wife, or she'll, I guess spending time with the kids kind of takes them off of her. So I guess she's good with that, but I want to spend time with her too. So, it's hard to do it to be a family man and still get in the evening what I need to be getting in. So, I try to do as much as I can, but I mean, next year I want to move up to a 600 again next year. So I really need to start training now if I want to be in the shape I need to be in for that. But yeah,
is your dad's shop? Is your dad's shop a motorcycle shop, a car shop? What is automotive shop? What is it?
That's a good question. I'm still trying to figure that out. Mostly we work on cars. It started out as a motorcycle shop, but there's more money in cars, so we mostly do cars. But I mean, we've had everything from race cars, motorcycles, 4-wheelers, go-karts. We had a Rhino, with a Yamaha, I think, Rhino, side by side.
Right.
We've worked on that this week. Whatever. We work on everything but boats. I'll put it that way. Boats and lawn. We work on lawnmowers sometimes, but we try to stay away from them.
Right. And you do sounds like all kinds of mechanical work then. It could be anything from, do you do like front end alignments and engine work and all that kind of stuff? Or
you know what? We've done alignments a couple of times, but we don't have an alignment machine. We do it like the old fashioned way with like a couple T-bars and a measuring tape.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that.
I'm not a big fan of doing that. We don't, that's like rare. Like if we're changing a tie rod end or something like that, we have to make sure everything's still straight. But yeah, I mean, we do a little bit of everything, really.
And what's the situation with you? So before you did the Red Bull Rookies, did you ride motorcycles? Tell us about your background leading up to that. Did your dad get you into bikes when you were young?
Oh yeah. I was, let's see. I had a little 54-wheeler when I was 3 and started riding on that, and it got stolen, and we got a JR50. My dad tells people I started riding when I was 4, but it was a week before I was 4. So I tell people I started riding when I was 3. It sounds better.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah. No, I've been on a motorcycle since I was 3. And, it's been, basically the basis of my entire life. I grew up racing motocross, got hurt. I mean, I wouldn't say I got hurt a lot, but I got tired of getting hurt, And I had a couple concussions when I was a kid, and that's not, when you're that young, that's not really good. So I was actually going to get into go-kart racing. That's what we were going to do. The end of 2004, we started looking at, we're going to race like dirt tracks on go-karts. And we were actually at a go-kart track. I remember we were at one watching and looking at a go-kart that was there, and we're walking around, and my dad was like, "Hey, I found this thing. It's called SEMRA, which it's not around anymore, which really sucks. That was a great organization." And he's like, basically, we just put some Supermoto wheels and tires on your YZ85, and you go racing on like asphalt go-kart tracks. And I was like, yeah, I guess we'll give that a try. And if that don't work out, we'll just go race go-karts. And then here I am.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was in 2005, and my first race, I got lapped. I never rode it or anything. We may have rode it in a parking lot or something, but I went to the first race in South Carolina, got lapped. And by the end of the year, I'd picked it up enough that I actually ended up winning that championship, the GP85 class. So the next year, I got a 125 and started doing WERA stuff, and that was in 2006. So, I mean, we did the tryout for the Rookies Cup at the end of 2006. So I really only had 1 year of like actual road racing under my belt whenever I went.
Kris, so we got a little bit of a scoop for you. I think what you're talking about, SEMRA, is the thing that we posted a story about today. And I think it's the same organization. Paul, can you talk about that a little bit? What's going to be at VIR? I think it's the same organization that maybe Kris is referring to with Supermoto.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same organization or not, but
okay.
we are
sure.
No, it's not.
We are having a little we've kind of, the Supermoto promoter in the area, wanted to hook in with us and run an event, which they can do because it's obviously a little bit off site. I mean, it's on site, but it doesn't utilize anything that we're utilizing. So it's the Supermoto East Coast Championship, and they are gonna join us for weekend racing while we're at VIR, which is kind of cool. I went over there last year, and there was a guy over there burning some laps when the go-karts weren't being used, and it looked like they could make a pretty decent little track out of it. The go-kart track was kind of fun. We drove karts, but yeah, it'll be interesting to have, it's one more thing for people to go check out when there's a break in the action from what we're doing, and it gives them some more entertainment. So yeah, it'll be kind of cool to go over there and see what's up with those guys. But yeah, I know Supermoto is, it's where a lot of our guys started. I know Cameron used to do Supermoto and
Yep.
JD and stuff like that. So it's obviously, it's pretty good training because, like Kris said, you can throw some street tires and different wheels on a motocross bike and go ride it. So popular.
But that was your inroad into road racing, though, Kris. I mean, you kind of
I mean, there wasn't any dirt. It was just the asphalt part. I remember we went to one track down in Florida and they had a dirt section. Like we weren't racing on it, but they let us go out there and kind of mess around on it. But it was all sandy and we were on slicks and it was super sketchy.
Wow.
But yeah, I've never actually rode a full blown supermoto bike with a dirt section. I've always thought it'd be fun though. I mean, like I said, I grew up on motocross, so I'm not afraid of jumping and stuff like that. So I always thought that'd be pretty fun.
What made you decide to get involved in Twins Cup and where did you get the SV650 that you race and all that?
Oh man. I was actually whenever I decided I want to get back into it, I was going to get a 600 because that's what I quit racing. Whenever I quit racing, that's what I was on. And that's, I'd spent the last 4 or 5 years on it. So, I don't know. It never really, I wouldn't say it never crossed my mind because my dad actually mentioned to me in the off season before last year. He's like, hey, they're doing a twins class this year. If you want to get back into racing, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I rode an SV a couple of times. I didn't really enjoy it that much. It was a little too slow for me. And then, so we found the 600 we were going to buy and everything. And then my dad called John Ulrich and kind of talked to him for a minute about it. And John was the one that said, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the twins class. And I think that'd probably be a better starting point, because like I said, I ain't been on a bike in years. So I actually found a bike. I think it was on Craigslist. It was either Craigslist or Facebook. I can't remember. And found this SV it was $1,800. That's what I think he had it for like 25 or something. And I talked him down to 18. And I thought it looked pretty good, in the pictures and everything. It looked good. And then I went all the way up to Indianapolis to meet this guy and pick it up. And the tank was like caved in on the right side. And he took pool noodles and cut them up and put in there where the dent was and then covered it with blue duct tape and then put a Suzuki sticker over the duct tape. So like in the pictures it looked fine.
Crap.
In the pictures it looked fine and I got on it and I'm like, what is this? So it was like an all stock bike. And the guy was talking about the guy was super cool. He was super nice about everything, but he was talking about how many races they won on it and all this. And I'm like, what are you racing? Like, what series are you racing? Because this is stock. But no, between me and my dad, we've put a lot of money and time into that thing and built a really, really good bike out of it. And it was funny because I told him whenever I bought the bike, I was like, hey, MotoAmerica is in a couple weeks. He's like, there's no way, no possible way we can make it to MotoAmerica. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't want to push you that much, And then I called him, I don't know, maybe a few weeks after that and was like, how far is that bike coming along? And he was like, well, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to buy this, this, and this. And I was like, you think we can make it to Laguna? He was like, no way. No way. He was like, let's just do the last 3 East Coast rounds and go there. And I was like, oh, I just got off the phone with Danelle at MotoAmerica and signed up for Laguna. So we might want to get that thing ready.
Oh, geez.
So I went from not being on a bike for years, went to a track that I'd never been to before, and first practice put it 3rd fastest. So that felt really good. And I was so rusty. I was like running over the curbs on the inside of the turns. I was turning in early, and I didn't feel that good, but I felt like I still had a decent pace. And I felt like I honestly could have. I know Madama just like waxed everybody at that race, but I feel like I could have went with him at least. And made a race out of it, but ended up breaking a chain on the warm-up lap. So all that time and effort, and money and everything, and I didn't even get to race. So that was after Utah. We went to Utah and like had bike problems every time we were on the track, and got to the race. I had to start last because I made one flying lap in practice, and it just so happened to be like barely fast enough to qualify. So they let me start in the back of the grid, and I got in front of Daniel Diaz, which was a pass for third, but Madama crashed, so it would have been second. And then ended up high-siding my brains out. So the bike's trashed again. We got to start all over again. And I called my wife, and I'm like, I don't know that I really want to get back into racing now. This sucks, you know? I've put all this money and effort into this, and I haven't even finished a race yet. And then, obviously we went to Pittsburgh and had a good weekend, and then Jersey and Barber, and it all kind of flowed back to me. I started getting that positive vibe from it again and really fell in love with it again.
And of course, go ahead, Paul.
Do you still have? Are we still racing the same $1,800 bike with the that you bought on? I mean, you haven't upgraded, have you?
No, it's still the same frame. That's about it. I mean, we put a front end, we put a GSXR front end on it. We put a shock on it, which I'm getting. I'm going to start running K-Tech stuff at VIR. They've kind of jumped up and started helping me out a lot too. So, I mean, it's got GSXR wheels. We've gone through the motor and completely built the motor, and I mean, it's the same frame. That's about it. But I mean, we're still starting with the same basis.
Kris, what's the situation when I talked to you before and I wrote that story about you? You had something going in the off season where you talked about VO2 leathers, but you were going to kind of be a source for parts and bike stuff. Is that still going on? I mean, tell us about that if you're doing it, or what's going on, where that went.
I'll tell you where that's went. It's the online market is that's a tough market to get into for sure.
Yes, and it is. Sure is.
It takes a lot of work, and I got set up as a dealer through Western Powersports, so I can offer like it's over 10,000 products, and it was taking me 30 minutes to put one product onto the website. So I mean, it's still a thing. I use it more at the shop to order parts and gear for customers like that come into the shop. And I've put a lot of time and effort into the website itself. About, I don't know, a month and a half before the season started, before Atlanta, we started trying to get our stuff together. So I've kind of slacked off that last couple of months, but yeah, it's going to be a thing eventually. It's just kind of on the back burner right now.
Gotcha. But you've got the relationship with Western Powersports still, and you're saying you've kind of incorporated into what you're doing with working in your dad's shop and everything. You've sort of been able to incorporate it that way. Well, that's cool. Yeah. You've got that to look forward to and head out there. And to your point, I mean, what you said about VO2, wasn't that Western Powersports? Didn't that start that relationship with VO2, or was it a different thing?
I actually, Farmer, VO2 is who was hooking up Parrish last year. That's what he was wearing. He's wearing them again this year. And he actually, Farmer hit me up on Facebook, and we started talking. And he's kind of, I mean, not to put too many details out there, he's gone, I mean, above and beyond to make sure I get what I need. And I had a couple offers from some other people, and I'm super grateful for that. But just talking to Jonathan himself, I felt like that was the right choice to go with him. And then he actually drove, like, he lives in North Carolina. I want to say it's like 5 or 6 hours just to come to the shop one day, just to measure me, to make sure that everything was perfect. So he's definitely, he's an avid fan of MotoAmerica and of the Twins Cup class too. I mean, he races in Wira and stuff like that. So,
man, I continue to be amazed with the Brotherhood and Twins Cup, though. And I say Brotherhood, I don't mean it in a gender specific sort of way, but the fact that, you guys are competitors, but you mentioned the fact that, Kris hooked you up with VO2, and I know you have a relationship with Madama. I hear a lot of times, I get a lot of messages from Curtis Beecham and, about his situation with Drake racing in that class. And in 41 entries as of now, there may be more than that, but you guys want to beat each other, but you also seem to all get along pretty well. Is that pretty accurate?
Oh yeah, I mean on the track, it's like going to war. Everyone out there hates everybody, but everyone that I've seen so far races super clean and um, but off the track, it's a completely different atmosphere. I mean, it's anything that you need help with, anything at all. Just hanging out and just it's not like I mean like who was it? I can't remember. A few months ago, somebody talking about the difference between the MotoGP paddock and the World Superbike paddock. MotoGP's super cutthroat, and then World Superbike's like real laid back. Everybody's just kind of hanging out and chilling, and that's kind of like what it is. MotoAmerica in general is really like that, but the Twins Cup's definitely a super friendly group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got a situation here where you have Alex Dumas, who is, what is he, 16 or so, and then you have Michael Barnes, who's 50 years old. So there's such a disparity in ages. Have you spent any time with Alex Dumas at all and gotten any sense of how he likes the class?
No, not really. I met him at Atlanta, but I didn't really get to talk to him at all.
It's cool because you actually have a pretty good relationship with Team Hammer, and obviously that's what Alex is doing now. When you raced 600 before, didn't you have some support from Team Hammer and John Ulrich and all that?
Yeah, for sure. That was the biggest thing that the Rookies Cup kind of did for me. It started my relationship with John Ulrich, and I was writing articles for Road Racing World whenever I was racing in the Rookies Cup. So when I came back here, he put me on a 600, and I did a year doing Wiro races so I could get my points to get my pro license. And then we started 09 with them, doing the AMA stuff. And halfway through the year, we kind of had a falling out and went our own ways. But even after that, he was still there trying to help me out. In 2012, I raced at Triumph, and John was actually the one that sent me that bike. They got it for a magazine deal. I don't know. They're doing like articles and testing it and stuff. And he said they didn't have anybody to write the articles, so they didn't really have the time to mess with it. So he just sent me the bike. So
wow.
He's always been there, kind of helping me out in whatever way he can. But I mean, like last year, anything I needed. I mean, like to go to Laguna, we actually threw the bike in the M4 Suzuki truck, and they took it out there for me. And anything that I ever needed, I just go find either Keith Perry or Rob Silva, and they would hook me up with, anything that I needed. So yeah, they're it's another really good group of people. They've got a really strong program.
That's pretty great. Hey, I know we're running out of time, but I got to ask you another Chattanooga question. Do you call it? I've heard it's either called. Do you call it Chat City or Nooga? Which one do you go with?
I'm not much on the slang. I just call it Chattanooga.
Here I'm trying to be street cool and everything, and look what happens.
Yeah. I have more respect for him.
I hear a lot of people say like Chattown and stuff like that,
yeah.
But the Nooga kind of gets on my nerves. I don't know. It just sounds stupid to me.
The website for the city, and this is where I got some of the fun facts, is actually Nooga.com.
Oh, I know. They're embracing it. It's bad.
God.
It is a little goofy. Enough. I agree with you. Yeah, exactly.
I think we've gone through moon pies. We've gone through tow trucks. We've gone through putt. We've gone through Chris's career, and I think we'll end it at, what is it? Chattanooga.com.
Nooga.
We'll plug the Nooga.com and see if we can get him some more traffic. But anyways, guys, I do have to cut us off here, but it was a nice conversation. I get to learn a lot about Kris Turner that I didn't know, and we're happy that you're in our series, and it's good to see you part of such a growing class. And the Twins Cup is something that we're kind of proud of around here, because obviously going from 9 entries to over 40 is pretty impressive in the span of a year. So congrats on your play in that, and we certainly hope you have some better luck at VIR. I think maybe you got all your bad luck over with here in the last year or whatever, and we can get that thing turned around and start seeing you at the top of that podium again. So we will see you. We'll see you next week in Virginia, and I'll see you. I'll talk to you again before then, Sean, obviously. But
yep.
You guys take care of yourself, and to all our listeners, thanks for always tuning in. And this thing will be available for you on Saturday morning on however it is that you get your podcast. So you guys take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Paul.
Hey, thank you for having me on.